ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Thank you very much for coming to the best set of talks here with these amazing people. Thank you for your time. To people who don't know me, my name is Mark Sage, because I've actually been chairing the room next door. And it's my honor and pleasure to basically ask these guys some questions. But I would also like you to ask some questions. Okay, there's two ways we can do it. There is through the app, or we can get some microphones as well. And I say that, I put my app and my phone in my bag, so we'll go and get it in a minute. So we're going to be talking this afternoon about XR, marketing, sales, and customer experience. So to be honest, from my perspective, I run an organization called the Area, AR Enterprise Alliance, so I'm very focused on the enterprise space. And whilst I'm interested in marketing generally, I've learned a great deal from these people already about what's happening in that kind of space. So we have some questions I'm going to ask, and we're just going to get going. So, oh yes, and I mentioned about the questions. So, firstly, I'm going to start with Andy here. Can you please introduce yourself and explain how you got into extended reality?
Surely. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Mark, and thank you to everybody at Brain Exchange. Andy Hunt, as Mark mentioned, I'm with the Hershey Company. I'm going to start out by answering two quick questions that many of you probably have in the back of your head. Yes, I did bring candy. It's over there with the blood donations. Please feel free to go help yourself and check out the blood donation drive that's going on down there. Second question is, no, I don't know where the Oompa Loompas are kept. That's another company. I can't address any of that at all. My origin story for XR is from about 8 years ago when I was in advertising. I was a creative director at an ad agency doing research and development. Yes, there is research and development in advertising. And we were looking at virtual reality in use for trade events and big marketing sort of activations. We had a lot of business to business, a lot of AEC clients, and you can't take a user up in a 180-foot boom lift at a show. You cannot take them through a sample application at a show involving like aviation there. So what we were able to do is take virtual reality and transport them into those situations to convey sort of the features, the benefits, and sort of the interesting things that went on with these products. I've been with the Hershey Company for about 6.5 years now, taking that clearly obvious correlation between manufacturing equipment to chocolate and using my knowledge for extended realities and spatial computing to help our commercial teams with emerging technologies and research and development there. The work that I'm doing right now is enabling our retail and sales team to have the richest possible experiences they can with our customer partners. I want to make sure I define two terms here real quickly to make sure that it's clear for everybody else. When we think of our customers, in our parlance, our customers are the retail stores for which you generally find our products, your big box retailers, your grocery stores, your convenience stores, things like that. And the consumers are the folks like those of you who happen to enjoy our products. The other thing I want to talk about is with R&D. I always like to joke that I'm not the guy putting pretzels into peanut butter cups. I'm not the guy putting chips into our peanut butter cups. I'm the guy putting augmented reality onto our iPads for our teams to be using those things. I'll just make a quick note. The next time you are at a grocery store or a mass retailer here in the States, especially right now with it being Halloween season, which we like to call our Super Bowl, the next time you go into a Publix, the next time you go into a Walmart, the next time you go into a Giant Eagle up in the Northeast, and you see a big merchandising display, a big archway with haunted houses and things like that. That was probably placed there by one of our reps using the augmented reality tools that we have built to demonstrate the creativity of those displays and the value of those displays and what they have in that store. So that's sort of my AR story.
You use the word candy, don't you? A lot. And you see now, coming from the UK, we don't understand what candy is. It's sweets. Okay, it's sweets. Okay, Mitch Harvey, over to you.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Mitch Harvey, Digital Product Operations Manager for Deckers Brands. So we own footwear and apparel companies such as UGG boots, Hoka running shoes, Teva sandals, Anu, Kookaburra, and Deckers Lab. So 6 brands. I'm in charge of the 3D design and development team, and through building 3D products for like prototyping. Obviously, then we had digital assets that you could use downstream. And so in the digital product creation phase, we build the 3D models, the rendering, animations, 3D printing, 3D shoe scanning, and building apparel garments before the factory make their prototypes, and connecting those models with systems like our PLM system to create bill of materials and pre-costing estimates, 2D patterns to help inform the factories how to build the sample. And then through that, having those digital assets, using it downstream for visual line planning, B2B sales tools. So we have a virtual tool that has all the 3D assets in there so they can merchandise and sell the product. And then also B2C experiences such as like virtual try-on.
Thank you, Mitch. And I know when we spoke before, and my apologies if you're going to mention this in some of the other questions, but you've literally got a huge kind of database of 3D assets. Do you want to kind of explain how many shoes, trainers, and stuff like that? Because it was really impressive when you...
Yeah, so I don't know if I can talk about numbers, but we do this for all of the brands. And so if we can build it by 3D modeling, we 3D shoe scan. And so that gives us full coverage of all the products. And so we're able to use every single SKU for our consumer to try on their foot.
Wow, which is very important, and probably a lot of us know the kind of challenges around content, and I think is even more important in the marketing kind of space. So thank you for that. Lorna Jean.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Lorna Jean, and I'm here from Miller Knoll, formerly known as Herman Miller and Knoll, where we make furniture, products like the Aeron chair and the Eames lounge. My original background is actually in interior architecture and design. So I used to specialize as a designer in 3D rendering and experiences like VR tours. Those have been around in the architecture and design community for a really long time. But I quickly found that I actually fit in a lot better in marketing. So from there, I went on to become a director of innovation, and I worked between marketing, design, and sales to create some really amazing 3D experiences for big contract design clients like the Marriotts and Cignas of the world. So at Miller Knoll, I lead our 3D product visualization strategy, where we're working to bring some of our most iconic designs like the Eames products into extended reality for our customers, and experiences like 3D configurators, AR, room planning tools, that kind of thing. So thanks for having me.
Well, thank you. And again, just a kind of an add-on question. I'm always fascinated, strategy manager, how far into the future do you actually look?
At this point, we're actually looking at how we can take the 3D assets that we have enhanced for our customers into enterprise-level XR training experiences for our dealer installers across the US who install really large things like workstations and stuff like that, which take a lot of steps, a lot of experience, and a lot of time to train people on. And so we're looking at that now, starting with Herman Miller, but we have an entire family of brands that we support. So we're looking at how we can also scale that out to additional brands in our family as well.
Cool, and just on a roadmap perspective, are you looking 2, 5, 10 years, weeks, months, minutes?
No, I would say with technology, things change so often that I'm really not trying to look beyond 3 to 5 years. I think that I would have to reevaluate quite a few. Sometimes 3 weeks is even a little hard to look forward, but I usually try to not go too much further than that.
That's great, thank you. Okay, and James Ashley.
Yeah, I'm James Ashley. I got my start with a digital agency called Razorfish on their emerging experiences team. So we were doing digital marketing, but our special group was doing installations and trying to pull together whatever was the coolest tech at the time, which back then was big touch screens. And also, do you remember the Kinect camera where you could do gesture stuff? Yeah, so I spent 5 years doing gestures and large screens for them, mostly with retail, but also auto and a few other industries. And that was a fabulous experience. After that, I did a lot of working for startups, got into augmented reality, almost exclusively AR, going through the headsets, HoloLens, Magic Leap, HoloLens 2, Magic Leap 2, Meta, and most recently, the Apple Vision Pro. I led an engineering team at Walmart last year to develop an enterprise app for internal management. And currently, I'm finishing up a stint at CVS in their innovation group, where we're doing strategy prototypes for healthcare delivery.
Awesome, James. You don't have to answer this question, but your favorite device?
Oh, right now, the Vision Pro is my favorite device.
Okay, cool. Wonderful. Okay, so some amazing brands, a really kind of wide range of different experiences. And I'm going to start with Mitch with the next question. How are digital marketing strategies changing in the age of extended reality?
Yeah, so I'd say more and more marketing teams are contacting us for either our assets or animations that they can help storytell, create product education videos, and then more external things like I mentioned, virtual try-on, but also the virtual showroom. So that kind of immersive experience is helping us to sell to our buyers. And then we're having discussions about other things such as gaming, which we found hard to get into in a repeated fashion or create something that's worthwhile monetarily. So there's lots more that they're interested in that we're just beginning.
And do you think, is it you pushing some ideas? Is it them coming to you? A combination of both? How does that kind of feel in terms of?
It normally starts with a push, and either it completely makes sense and it's ready and it works, or 3 years later, they've started doing it without me, or they come back and they understand it now. So there's a bit of a lag with either technology or the understanding or the time. So those teams already have so much. So when new technology comes out, they will have planned 3 years ahead. Their whole year is busy with the things they're trying to do with either marketing or e-commerce. So finding space for these new technologies, there's often a delay.
Okay, and we'll come back to some of the challenges later as well, because I think that's another good point to pick up on. Lorna Jean.
Yeah, so I would say that at this point, customers have higher expectations than ever when it comes to being able to virtually visualize those products before purchase. And in a lot of cases, that means that we need to improve our visualization assets to meet those customer expectations. So a lot of times that really, I would say, requires a shift in strategy from trying to drive traffic to our brick and mortar locations to creating and marketing immersive experiences that engage customers in new ways from home, whether that's that WebGL full configuration experience, AR, virtual showrooms. And what's great about those experiences is while they can definitely help us appeal to a younger generation of buyer, but part of that shift in strategy for our older brand loyalists also requires a little bit of education on these new tools and experiences that we're creating, right? Gen Z gets it. I'm pretty sure that everybody in this room gets it, but I really wish that I could replay for you guys the conversation that I had with my own mom when we were launching AR at Herman Miller. So it's not just about showing people that they have these capabilities, right? So with this AR launch, our marketing team, of course, created a photo and video campaign showing all the quality of the AR and what you could experience from home, but they also set up a special AR landing page on our retail sites to illustrate how to use this tool in 3 really simple steps to help all of our customers better understand how they could take advantage of these new capabilities and become more engaged with our products. So there's that appealing to younger generations by creating these new immersive experiences, but then for our older brand loyalists, there's also a little bit of education on these new capabilities that needs to be part of that strategy as well.
And again, help me out, because I assume there's still a physical space that people can go in, like a shop and stuff like that. Are you kind of promoting AR within that as well?
I would say right now for room planning, what we're looking at is multi-product AR, where you can select products within a room planning tool in a group and then say, all right, now I need a QR code and I want to be able to see all of these products together and then be able to move those around to get a better sense of scale. If you visualize a dining table and then you visualize one chair, that really doesn't show you anything. But if you're working with a designer in a room planning tool, and you can say, all right, let me see all 8 of those products at once, and then also move them around within that phone or tablet space as well, then that's becoming a lot more engaging, and it's also a lot more informative for scale and size of your space.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. James?
Do you mind asking the question again?
Yeah, of course. I'm just about to. How are digital marketing strategies changing in the age of extended reality?
So for me, it's mostly headsets. If you're doing tablet AR or phone AR, it's obviously different. I don't really know much about it. The problem for headsets is we can imagine 2 worlds where digital marketing would take effect, right? One would be in VR, where we used to have this thing a few years ago we called, what did we call it? The meta something. We don't talk about it anymore. In fact, I was
something
reading,
like that.
Yeah. I was on LinkedIn the other day where somebody wrote on there, I know this is an unpopular position, but I really think the metaverse is great. And everybody just responded, too soon, dude, too soon. But the idea there was we'd all collect ourselves in a common space, and then advertisers could come in and advertise their wares in 3D, and then somehow we'd use this to fund devices, and we'd seed more devices to people, and it would sort of grow itself, right? And that just sort of died out at the end of 2022. I'm still not totally sure why, but so there's that thing. And then the more futuristic thing is if we all end up having AR glasses or goggles. And the problem again is there just aren't enough out there. But at that point, we can imagine being able to project advertising on any surface around you, right? And this is something we saw in the movie Minority Report. It's something in Werner Vinge's novel Rainbow's End. And so it's a possible future. And when they talked about that, it really seemed dystopic at the time, but now it's taking so long. That's kind of the dystopic future I wish would hurry up and happen. And so the problem with both of those is there aren't enough VR devices out there to actually make it financially valuable or worthwhile for marketing agencies to start doing that. AR has an even smaller footprint. So for marketing right now, I think the biggest thing is just doing branding, right? Where you go to conferences or you have pop-up stores and maybe you can have a VR device there. So that works because the marketing agency comes with their own devices and puts it on people's heads. And you can do some exciting things with that. But we're still at that point of really waiting for something big to happen before a traditional marketing, the way we have digital marketing in the web, would really take place in our virtual spaces.
But there are, excuse me, billions of AR-enabled devices. Nearly every one of us have got one stuck in our pocket. Mm-hmm. So do you think it's a issue with the technology, or it's just that kind of market awareness? And are marketing companies doing enough to promote it?
I think it's just a form factor. It doesn't make sense to me to hold up your phone and then see advertising when your phone's constantly moving around, right? The advantage of the goggles is you actually have a sense of space and presence, and you're more aware of surfaces. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. There's no right or wrong answer, to be honest. We're shooting the breeze. Andy?
I don't know if it's a wrong answer, but it's an old man shaking fist at clouds, I guess, kind of answer, insofar as for us, the way that we're looking at it is by and large, we can let the new technologies just wash over us. Because for us, it's ultimately about connecting our consumers with the brands, not necessarily so much the products. And when you're looking at the huge catalog of brands that we've got at the Hershey Company, over 90 brands, the connection that we've got with them is very personal and very, very meaningful in very large regards. If you think about, perhaps sharing a glass of chocolate milk with a loved one, creating that chocolate milk and pouring the chocolate into that milk, and I don't know if anybody else has ever done this, but then pouring the chocolate milk right in your face before you throw it back in the fridge, or breaking off a Kit Kat bar and sharing half of it with your friend or your colleague. Those are things from a brand perspective that is hard to replace, regardless of the technology, because it's something that you do with someone, or having a bowl of popcorn for family movie night with your family. That's not something that's easily replicated, regardless of the extended reality technology, regardless of any technology that you're talking about doing. So when we take a look at these things, we try to understand what it means for us to represent ourselves accurately from a brand and marketing perspective again, regardless of whatever the acronym might wind up being. And so we take a very measured approach, meaningful approach to make sure that we're not just jumping into things like the M word, as James mentioned, and just trying to be mindful that because something is a very interesting and a quote unquote cool technology, we're not going to get into it without a lot of thought.
And do you think, Andy, we're looking to replicate experiences or bring new experiences with kind of extended reality? How's your thinking with that?
I think it's got to be new. I'm not sure, I guess from my perspective, I'm not sure how you replicate that feeling. I'm sure there's ways to do it, but there's perhaps not a one-to-one digital replication of being able to, again, sit with a friend, sit with a colleague, and share with them one of our Hershey bars through a digital reality. There may be some ways in which to, again, extend what we like to call it's called moments of goodness is what we talk about. What are the moments of goodness that we are creating for our consumers of our products? And it may not be literally sharing a product, but what is a moment of goodness in a headset? What is a moment of goodness that we can try to replicate through a brand like Reese's, like Twizzlers or Jolly Rancher in that fashion? So it's every time I hear somebody, it's always a marketing arm of some technology company coming at us talking about, you can do this, you can do that. It'd be so awesome if you could do this with a Reese's cup in virtual reality. It's like, yeah, but should we? Yeah. Right? So just cool your jets, we'll figure it out. It's all good.
Nice, thank you. I'm going to let you into a little secret because I do a lot of kind of moderating, and I only really ever ask 3 questions. So what problems or experience are you trying to do? What benefits you gain and what challenges you overcome? And we're going to talk about benefits, and I think it's actually really, well, it's more difficult in the marketing area. In the kind of manufacturing and things like that, it's all about saving money. But here is slightly different. Okay, so question, and we're going to start, Lorna Jean. What benefits are brand and marketing companies realizing by implementing extended reality solutions?
So for us, I would definitely say higher engagement and lower product returns. We've definitely seen increased time spent on product pages that have 3D capabilities. On our retail sites, customers on average are spending an additional 2 to 3 minutes visualizing and exploring their products in 3D. And then on our contract side of the business is where some really interesting things are happening. And we've seen architecture and design professionals spending upwards of 9-minute session times in these 3D experiences, specifying and then rendering those design selections. And by being able to visualize every single part of that product in detail from every angle, just like they would if they went into one of our brick and mortar stores or a dealer designer showroom, that in turn is reducing product returns on both sides of the business, which means that ultimately we're creating more informed customers. So I would say higher engagement, lower product returns, and more informed and engaged customers.
And is it been easy to kind of explain that to the executives to get more investment into the technology? Because there's some, whilst I know you can't talk about actual numbers, there's some really impressive kind of bits there in terms of minutes. So how does that internal conversation happen?
Luckily, I am more on the 3D part of it, and those conversations happen with our merchandising and e-com teams, and I'm able to access the dashboards that they create and see some of those really fantastic analytics. But they are the ones that are then taking those back to the managers of each of our different integration locations and sharing those across both sides of the business.
Okay, nice, good. I think the dashboard and that creation of collection of the information is really important. James, going over to you, kind of the benefits brand and marketing companies are getting by implementing XR solutions.
Again, I'm thinking about headsets. I think it's really good for luxury brands, right? So when the Apple Vision Pro came out, we saw several luxury brands, including Don Julio, that makes alcoholic beverages. I think it's mostly because they can afford to and it fits into their scheme. So let's say building the Apple Vision Pro app at launch would cost you, say, $150. And for really big luxury brands, they can afford that. That's a drop in the bucket out of their marketing budget. What they get out of it is they get to associate themselves with a really high-end product and a future product, right? So in people's imaginations, now this brand isn't just all the history, because they all talk about their history in their apps, right? But also, they're part of the future too. They're forward-looking, they are neon colored or whatever. And that's really good for them. And they probably feel like they need to do it too. You don't want other luxury brands out there and not you. But with Vision Pro, the one surprise I had was, do you know the cookie change crumble? They actually put an app on the Vision Pro, and it was perplexing because they're not exactly a luxury brand, but I thought it was really cool and something hopeful for the little guy.
I guess, Andy, the same question to you, but James is talking about luxury brands and being associated with that. I don't know if your kind of brand has a luxury bit, but how does your conversation go in terms of the benefits?
Well, I'm going to lean into something here, something that James did mention. While we're not in the AVP just yet, the application that I mentioned earlier about being able to visualize merchandising displays in stores that I encourage everybody to take a look at next time they're casually shopping at a grocery store. We've had a number of pieces of feedback from our retail sales team who are out there having these AR experiences with store associates who are showing augmented reality to store associates they're seeing augmented reality for the first time, and they're seeing it in a very practical, very real, very material, difference-making way to the way that they're executing their jobs. So it's not maybe a luxury type of brand, but it is a wow experience for them. And it's so fun and fulfilling to me and for us to be able to say that the first time that perhaps somebody has experienced augmented reality has not been through an Apple device, has not been through a Meta device, because the Hershey company brought it to them and showed them the value and the power that are possible with them. So that to me is exceedingly fulfilling for what it is that we're doing.
Yeah, and I didn't want to disagree with you, James, but I don't think it's just for luxury brands. I think there's a wow factor, there's an information kind of part, there's also, what Laura Jean's doing is being able to do something very practical. I want to work out how things go in my kind of space. So in this kind of marketing space, there's so many different use cases.
Well, I keep poking my head around the corner because I'm looking for Berkey, and I don't see Scott Berkey here, because I wanted to push back on him, and he would appreciate this to no end, push back on him a comment that he mentioned earlier today about there's no ROI of cool. Did everybody see Scott's presentation earlier today? He said there was no ROI of cool, and I'll push back on that a bit, and I can have this conversation with him to ad nauseum later. But the idea being is that maybe we just haven't figured out how to measure the ROI of cool yet. We're just not looking at it in the same. Thank you. We're just not looking at it. If we're looking at it, we're looking at it maybe with these old analog tools that we use to measure ROI and KPIs and OKRs. Maybe we need to figure out a new way to determine what ROI is for a cool device like this. And the best example that I have of that is after we had executed the first series of pilots that we had for this merchandising display that we had done, about 6 months ago, our senior VP for HR, Chris, if you're watching this for some odd reason, I apologize, I'm gonna butcher what you told us, but he said we were looking to create new experiences based on, or we're creating to use data and experiences to create new efficiencies and engaging experiences for our employees. And I took that quote, whatever the verbatim quote was, and I put that on every presentation that I've gotten, on top of the slide that I've got, next to a quote that I got from one of our TSLs outlining the exact use case that we had laid out for the augmented reality experience, along with literally the wow, that is so cool quote that came from the store associate with a side-by-side picture of what the area looked like before and what it looked like after it. And so that right there is very cool. And so how do you measure a store associate saying that's so cool? Maybe you can't, but at least we've got the hard evidence that says, here he comes. But now we've got the hard evidence that says, I know we're creating experiences that are awesome, meaningful, and people are reacting to. So I think there's something there to that. And again, if anybody else has an idea as how to figure out how to, measure it with, 0 to 100 cool units. I don't know how if you're a certain age, they're called Fonzies. I don't know how you measure cool.
Scott, just a reference, he was saying what you said earlier was a load of rubbish.
I was beating you down by your ROI of cool statement earlier. You expect nothing less, sorry.
Can I say something about, in advertising and marketing, we don't really measure, right?
There's no content square dashboard for cool.
There's nothing like that. So I think the question isn't so much can you measure cool, but can you sell cool? I remember when I worked for a digital agency, that's all we were doing, trying to pitch this idea that there's no way you're ever going to be measuring this, thank goodness. but believe us, right? This is going to be worthwhile.
It's going to be cool.
Well,
It's going to be awesome.
well, I don't mean to the cool is not going to sell everything, and I don't want to glide over the idea that we did it. We have attached analytics that demonstrably do prove that reps who use augmented reality have a materially greater factor in terms of placing merchandise where we want it in the fashion that we want it. We can also connect it to store data that again, relays a definitive, calculable difference in terms of how the merchandising is affected when it's placed in different parts of the stores and set up different ways. We've got that too, but I think the cool and the hard data can go hand in hand, absolutely.
Mitch, over to you, because I know you've got some ideas, at least some other thoughts on this.
Yeah, so there's like a couple of topics with it. So when you're talking about ROI, like usage kind of shows that it must be useful, but sometimes it is like additive, and so then you balance if it's additive, like how easy is it to enter into. So like, what is the cost? If the cost is not crazy and it's something repeatable, then you're giving something more to the consumer, and so that should be enough justification. And then, so virtual try-on, for example, we also have like dashboards of the usage and like engagement rate, and we plan to, and we're predicting that it could impact conversion rate and returns. We don't know yet, but yeah, that's kind of what we're thinking there. And then virtual showrooms, which we use strictly internally. So this is something that it started with just a virtual reality headset, but we moved it to on-screen just to get more people using it. And we found that more people use it if they don't have to put on a headset. And the virtual showroom, for our internal purposes, a lot of people are remote, so it's helping reduce travel, reduce delays, increase like engagement of people, that they're not just on like a Teams meeting, and then just planning what those products look like in terms of merchandising and creating assortments that previously would be done with like pictures on the wall or products on the wall, or products that people have to fly and carry, and they can't carry everything. So now there's like a one-stop place for everything you're trying to discuss.
And I may be wrong, but with shoes, the try-on part for the consumer bit is really kind of cool. I want to look and see what those shoes look like. Obviously not me, because I'm a fashion victim. But also, when we see this, certainly in cars, being able to customize. Is that something that you've been looking at? I know there's some challenges with that, but
the only challenge with it is how do you manufacture that when they've actually made the decisions? And there is third-party solutions that can assist you with that. There's easy ways, like in terms of shoes, there's easy ways with, say you're just going to do it on a slide. So like a very simple shoe that you can keep white, and people could upload any picture and like have it on the slide. Like there's easy ways to do it. Our brands haven't really wanted to enter into it yet. So this is like something 9 years ago I'd shown like solutions we can use and how it would be possible, but there's a lot of change management in terms of like once that button's clicked, the factory has to change what they're doing. And so I kind of get it. It's often limited runs. And so like, is the benefit really there? You can charge a little more. So it makes sense, but it's just like, I think it involves so many people. Have we all got enough time to add that to our process? Or should it be living in the innovation team? But often you have challenges with, if the innovation team think it's a very good idea, the brand also has to agree. And so.
And the manufacturing and the rest of it need to be able to implement.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I get it.
So I kind of get it, yeah. But
the 3D configurator part is the easy piece.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And I guess to a certain extent, getting out to the customer is an easy piece.
Yeah.
Here's a kind of canvas. Go and make something pretty. And I'm sure they'll come up with crazy ideas. Okay, so we're doing a bit about the benefits, and as I like to call it, show me the money. Now let's talk a bit about the challenges. So James, starting off with you, kind of what challenges and barriers have you experienced or expect to overcome when implementing XR solutions?
Yeah, so the first one is just getting enough headsets out there on consumers' faces, right? Just to create a monetary landscape that makes it worthwhile to do advertising and marketing. But also, let me be more specific. One of the big hurdles is one that we faced at Walmart, where we definitely had the idea that we have all these products. We're already taking pictures of all of them for the website, and that was a huge thing. But if we're ever going to go 3D, we want to do some retail on there too, which means we have to have 3D assets. And creating 3D assets is really, really different from creating 2D assets. You need special tools, you need special understanding. The storage requirements are ridiculous. Even if you get it out on a share, you still don't have any CRM to go through and search for what you need the way we're used to now with 2D assets, right? So that's just a massive problem out there. Different people are tackling little bits of it. But I remember it's even hard to figure out what the cost of creating 3D assets for, let's say, 10 items, 10 SKUs I need 3D assets for. There's no consistent pricing for that either. It can run anywhere from $50 to $5,000, and it's utterly confusing. That's the state of the art right now. That's where we are.
Apart from we know Mitch has done it for all the shoes.
Yeah.
So,
Hats off to Mitch.
Well, but kind of cheating. So like we can't 3D model everything. So we create digital twins by scanning the rest of it.
Okay.
We actually scan everything, but in terms of 3D models, like you say, to get every single product made, like on time, like we even work with our factories, we have 3D teams there. Still to do everything is for all 6 brands. It may not be worth the cost, especially when you can use things like photogrammetry that's good enough for like virtual try-on. And there's other tools coming. So like you mentioned photography with shoes, so you can use like 6 photographs from the product pages and actually create a 3D model from that. So there's AI solutions that are working, and I've seen good results. So in the future, it might be less of a barrier to have the 3D.
And then with all these technology things, the technology is going to improve, so it will get cheaper, it will get faster, it will get better. It's just one of the things that we know. Andy, same question.
I'll just follow on. Hopefully, I'll add on without being redundant. But the idea of models, model fidelity is a big one for us as well. I'll use this as a bit of it hasn't been all rainbows and puppies for us with AR. And I'll use a small gotcha we had about 18 months ago when we were running a pilot insofar as the Reese's Orange is a patented trademark color. Don't quiz me on the CMYK, don't quiz me on the RGB because I won't get it right. But it's a patented orange color, so we're of course very protective about how that's represented, regardless of the media and an outlet where it winds up being. And about 18 months ago, I launched a pilot where you showed some merchandise, and I had the orange wrong. I had it a little too burnt, it was a little too red. And in my defense, I've got severe color blind. So in my defense, I didn't pick up on it. But the brand team picked up on it and said, hey, look, what you did was fine. It was a minor thing. It was a pilot. Not many people saw it, but just keep this in mind when you're moving forward. And so the idea of moving into the 3D space and having your models, having your visuals, having everything accurately represent your products is just critical. And it's something that you always have to can seem simple, but it's something you just very much have to keep an eye on, keep a measure of. I know with a lot of the folks out there, when you talk about model fidelity and AEC, you're talking about very tight tolerances for machines and things like that. But I think maybe for some of us, it's that the whole CMF, the color material finish, that all matters, hugely important, at least for us. And when you're talking about, again, brands that have been around for 130 years, you protect those, and you want to make sure that they're accurate regardless of the medium.
Yeah, interesting. Mitch, before I ask you, just a reminder that if you've got any questions for these lovely people, please use the app, or we can run around with a microphone and stuff like that, okay? So there are a couple on there, but Mitch, kind of challenges and barriers.
So I'd say virtual try-on, starting there, obviously that doesn't help with fit. It's more about what does it look like with maybe what you're wearing, or it's more about color and the general style, proportions, but it's not going to help you with fit. And so there's a gap there, obviously, and it's probably not going to be cured by virtual try-on. And then the second part of that is apparel. is still pretty difficult to get it right, even if we have all the assets. Just I started 3D apparel 5 years ago, so I had to step into it's almost a different industry of knowing everything about the pattern making and the processes and the tolerances. And so having fabric properties is something you gotta be concerned about. In virtual try-on, it's really difficult to get correct. And then virtual showrooms, that piece is the headset for sure. Like I personally would go in there, but I get why other people don't. Which is funny because virtual try-on is something I don't use. Like I can look at a photo and know what it's gonna look like. So everybody's different. But yeah, headsets, just optimizing models so it works. If you're all in the headsets, making sure the internet connection is good, all sorts of problems there. And I don't know if AR glasses is gonna fix it, but it's a start.
I don't know, yeah. Cool, okay. Lorna Jean.
I mean, there's no shortage of challenges. On the customer side, I would say a big challenge is actually overcoming previous poor experiences with low quality 3D content. I mean, I've had them myself. I tried to use AR to figure out what size television I should fit in a very strange corner of my house. And it was awful. The quality was terrible. I couldn't trust the measurements at all. I had to get up on a chair and double check everything. And I'm so glad that I did. So we've invested a ton of time and effort into ensuring the quality of the models, the materials, the scale. But then internally, that's a challenge for us too, because our product specialists are already really, really busy people. And it takes a lot of time for them to go through and check and make sure that everything is to their level of standard. Our EAMS team is incredibly protective of any visual asset for their line of products. So we have to spend a lot of time doing that, and those people are already at capacity. So that quality versus speed of content creation, that's a big challenge. And then on the data side, we are constantly adding new options and materials to our products, especially on retail sites. So ensuring that our 3D content is data-driven and can support that continually expanding product offering is also a big challenge. And then the last thing I think I would say is visual testing capabilities, right? So there's still a lot of spot checking and reviewing that has to be done meticulously by the human eye. And we not only QA things as they go out the first time, but then we go out and we do, random time spot checks to ensure that everything's still working properly and it still looks great in AR. And that takes a lot of time. So we're able to do a lot of, automatic testing on things like the pricing and the product numbers. But then when it comes to, is that live WebGL model updating and are those little ARM details changing when you select that they want to be fully adjustable? That still takes a human person to go in and review to make sure that those things are happening correctly. So I think that that's definitely a challenge, and it's also something that I hope we continue to see improvements in.
Cool, okay, so I'm going to try and do a quick summary, and please correct me or add to it and stuff like that. So I think content is seriously, seriously important, the management of that ongoing. Added to that, the kind of the brand ID to what you were talking about, Andy, to making sure that that is appropriate. I think, James, you were touching more on the kind of interaction, the devices and those kind of things as well. And then the ability to kind of test this in different environments. I think finally about the measurement and that just being cool is kind of good enough at the moment. Awesome. I have got one question on here. We literally have 1 minute 30. So quite a good question. Key factors considering creating marketing campaigns that resonates across different demographics with particularly younger audiences. Is there a difference between sort of younger and older people, or should the experience be the same? Anybody can jump on that one.
I mean, anybody who can answer that is going to be a millionaire, right?
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
What do kids want
Should be
these
the
days?
same.
Well, that's the thing. I think I touched a little bit about that earlier with educating people on how to use those tools, right? So the tools can be the same, but while it's going to be very intuitive to Gen X and younger, I mean, my 6-year-old niece can fix the television and I can't. So I don't think she'd have a problem visualizing a product in AR and probably purchasing it. Like she could go through that whole thing. But then with my parents, if they can just see those 3 easy steps on, oh, all I have to do is point and shoot and then it'll show up. But we've had people that just, they didn't understand. And when you said view in your space, they automatically thought I have to upload a picture of my space and then I'm going to be able to see things in it. So I think that it can be the same experience, but that we need to bring in that education factor as well to make sure that we're giving accessibility to everybody. It's really about equal accessibility.
Absolutely. Anyone else? Okay, well, with 10 seconds left, it's all I need to do is thank these wonderful people. If you get a chance to speak to them, please do. I've had a really great learning experience, and thank you for listening, and enjoy the rest of the show.
All right, everyone, we're gonna do a quick mic swap and then we'll get started with our second talk.
Should have done one on stage.